Episode 226 of the TV Dudes podcast, recorded March 6, 2019. Fun and humor.
We did a Patreon video a little while back, which people can find over at patreon.com/tvdudes.
I don't know if it's still there. I might have taken it down.
What? Why would you take that down? It was genius.
Reasons. But I don't know.
I know why. Oh, that sucks.
Wait, maybe I don't know if I
yeah.
did. Wait, maybe you get. Do you guys know why?
I think I know why.
Why?
No, we don't got to
It's
talk about it.
because of the government.
The government.
It is, right? Technically, because of the government.
No.
Oh, okay.
Now,
Then I don't
now
know
I'm
why.
super curious. Why? What do you mean about the government?
I thought one of our former members, when interning for a certain government agency, asked that we take something down. Maybe.
Oh,
X-Force.
maybe that.
Yep.
Maybe that is the
I think that
actual
was the
reason why
reason.
I did.
But you know what? She's not at that government agency anymore, so we're probably going to put it back up.
Yeah. Okay.
You should, because there is a bit. It was a little video we made introducing ourselves and talking about and pitching the Patreon. And there is a bit in which Les goes straight faced. He says, "Yes, it's a podcast full of fun and humor." And he looks as angry as any man you've ever seen, and it was great. We had a great time making that video.
Yeah.
That was a good time.
So why are we calling this episode Fun and Humor? Because we're doing some comedy shows. This week we're going to be talking about Miracle Workers, that new Steve Buscemi, Daniel Radcliffe comedy over on TBS where he's God.
It's by Simon Rich, the guy who did the man seeking woman. So it's got that same weirdness to it.
And then we're going to be talking about Better Things. No, wait, we're not going to be talking about it. We're going to hold off on
hold
that.
on Better Things.
Because you want Les here to talk to you about that.
I want us to have a little more time to see it.
Ignore that, folks. We're going to be talking about I'm Sorry over on Netflix. Well, Netflix is redistributing it.
Right. It's a True TV thing. It's currently wrapping up its second season on True TV. And if you get obsessed with it, you may have to find somebody with a cable login so you can watch True TV season 2.
Right. And then Pen 15 is this new indie comedy over on Hulu. So we're going to chat a little bit about that. We got a big full slate of comedy stuff.
Ha Ha House.
And while we're on the subject of
Chuckle
comedy, I wanted to ask you guys, the other week, a documentary came out over...
I was wondering when somebody in this group is going to bring this up.
A documentary came out on HBO called Leaving Neverland. There's 2 parts to this documentary, and this is an investigation into the pedophilia, child molestation accusations levied at Michael Jackson.
I heard it was a movie about parents who openly admit to child prostitution and implement themselves in major crimes. Is that not the same movie we're talking about?
It might, in a way.
Yeah, if you come out on a documentary and go, "Oh, he gave me a car and then I let my kid stay at his house," aren't you kind of admitting to a crime that you did?
It is so weird, the juxtaposition with these parents so willing to try and portray themselves as innocent. And I'm thinking, no, you're not. In fact, so I watched the first half hour of the first one, and I feel this is one of those shows that is a metric test of your willpower, right? How long can you keep watching this before the cringe and just discomfort of how terrible everything is makes you have to stop? And it's really brutal. If you guys have any sensitivity to sexual abuse, I would say just avoid it altogether. But it's rough.
Man.
So here's a question. Do you guys think this is going to affect Michael Jackson's legacy? Or is this a thing everybody knew?
I don't know. It's hard to gauge.
Does it make you want to not listen to his music?
I don't know. If I start humming something in my head, I'm like, it's so infectious.
It's really catchy, right?
It's so
I think the
pervasive.
question is, does this make Pepsi not want to put his music in a commercial?
Yeah, that's
or
going
movies
forward.
to
Yeah.
still play it as like a plot point. Or
That's a
whatever.
much better point.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that his long-lasting legacy will probably diminish. I think
Yeah.
people will stop listening to it. Like younger generations, it
Yep.
won't have as much of an impact as it could have.
So what's because I haven't seen this. I mean, is it pretty
There-
cut and dry, or is
there
this
are
like
two-
evil genius or making a murderer?
The documentary is made really well. There are two different men who are coming out and accusing him of, like, when we were kids, he purposefully groomed us. Here are all the steps he took until he started sexually molesting us. And they were kids who were just kind of groomed to be on board with this and then keep it a secret forever. And the level of detail that goes into it, it's pretty brutal. And there's this one part right in the beginning where the mom's talking about, like, I didn't want my kid to be in a commercial with him, but my friend really pushed me, like, oh, you gotta have him try and be in that commercial. I'm like, whatever. Later you refer to yourself as this eager stage mom. Don't try and act all like
Man.
shy about like the first step of pushing your kid into stardom. I mean, it's just kind of the problem with that. It's if you're gonna be a parent who puts a kid in that industry, you have to guard them like crazy because the whole thing is an exploitative machine.
Yeah.
So I don't want to have like a too bad of a tone shift here, but speaking of parents and speaking of this documentary here, the reason I didn't get to see it is because my parents cut the plug. Guys, I'm going to admit it. I've been using my parents' password for years.
Oh,
all right?
no.
I'm talking HBO Go, DirecTV, everything, like the True TV, the TBS, all that. Like, and sure enough, this week, we kind of knew it was coming, but we didn't know like when the date would be. And I mean, it's like 1 second you're watching HBO. Next thing, it's like, what's going on in True Detective Season 3? I don't know. All right? Everything's falling in the cracks now.
Do you feel like you're living in a post-apocalyptic landscape? Like you woke up one day and
Say that again.
I can't even say it once.
A lampshade, I think. Are you
Yeah,
in a
no, there's like-
post-apocalyptic
You feel like you live
lampshade?
in a post-hippopotamus lampshade?
There's like a 9-inch flat screen TV hooked up to a receiver playing Netflix at my house where I like get a little bit of like from the outside world, but oh yeah.
I
End of
apologize
days.
for having even brought up that documentary, except that like everyone's been talking about it the past week or two. So I was like, I'm going to bring it up.
What you're saying is it's not as fun to watch as the Fire Festival documentary.
No, not at all. Man, that Fire Festival thing. Oh, that's so ridiculous. All right, well, let's go ahead and dive into these actual shows and hopefully bring a little bit more levity to the conversation.
Yeah, whatever problems we have with the comedies, it's not as bad as Finding Neverland is going to make you feel.
See, there you go.
And I owe you $10 now because you were able to mention Finding Neverland on our comedy episode.
Yeah, I did it.
Touche.
Miracle Workers over on TBS. Steve Buscemi is a disillusioned god who just has given up on humanity and kind of wants to just like call it a wash and
He's a
ditch
slacker
the
god.
project.
He's a
Yeah.
slacker god.
He's like the evolution of his character from Airheads, I think.
Yes.
And meanwhile, Daniel Radcliffe is one of these worker angels, I guess, trying to make prayers come true, prayer fulfillment. Mm-hmm. And the new young ingenue angel character, I don't remember her name.
Her name is her name in the show is Eliza. Her name as an actress is Geraldine Viswanathan.
Okay. Well, when she enters the picture, she obviously just is doe-eyed optimistic, like we can help humanity and we can answer these prayers. Why aren't we doing it?
She's the AOC of heaven.
Without as much bite.
That's true. Yeah.
Much friendlier. And yeah, I think this was kind of funny. There's a good charm to it.
So I've gotten 4 episodes into this, and first of all, it's worth noting this show is a miniseries.
Yeah.
You don't get Steve Buscemi really to commit to something on TBS unless it's a miniseries.
Okay.
It is. There is a show. There's a movie from like the 80s. I feel like it was called Two of a Kind, maybe.
It's called Dear God with Greg Kinnear.
It is called Two of a Kind, 1983. John Travolta, Olivia Newton-John. Let me read you the premise. When God decides to destroy Earth, 4 angels aim to redeem mankind through a young man and a woman with troubles of their own.
What?
They try to hook up John Travolta and Olivia
This is
Newton-John.
based
if
on-
they fall in love, then Satan, somehow Satan's trying to stop them because he wants God to destroy the world or something. But these angels are trying to hook up these two people on Earth so that God will not destroy the world. I believe that this thing is based on a book by Simon Rich, who also did Man Seeking Woman. He does this sort of weird existential romantic comedy bleak stuff that he does. I believe that Simon Rich ripped off his premise from a 1983 John Travolta film.
Wow.
But that said, this is a lot of fun. I've seen 4 episodes in. It's still TBS, so I feel like it's still got some flaws. It's like it's not the most clever version of anything I've seen, but I like all of these characters, and the notion of heaven as this like failing bureaucracy is really interesting to me as an atheist. So I love there's a bit in, I think it's maybe episode 2, it may not be in episode 1, where they're trying to get the couple to like get together. Was this in episode 1?
No.
Okay, so in episode 2, they're trying to get the couple to get together. And they've basically figured out that, they go to the same shawarma place, so we're going to use these shawarma fumes to like drive them there. And the guy starts to stop at this like pizza place on the way. He's like, "Oh, pizza." And they use a button to give the pizza guy a gallbladder, so he falls over, his like gallbladder exploding, and the pizza place is closed. So the guy goes on. That guy dies, and the whole thing is like there's a montage of how this guy gave all of the money to charity and how good he was. And this is the same second episode where God has decided that he wants to kill Bill Maher for constantly talking shit about him by exploding his penis. And he sends his major domo to go figure out how to do it. And they go down to the penis division. And it's bonkers. The idea that heaven just does not give a fuck about humans.
That's pretty great. I love in the first episode how they're really just trying to answer this simple prayer of this guy lost his glove.
Yes.
And they're like, we can just help him find his glove. We can do this. And like they're using a breeze to move leaves off the glove so that this guy finds his glove, and they're like, "We did it! Yay!" They're hugging, and the guy's like, "Good, now I can go rob this bank."
Yes.
And then later in the story, like the guy has the glove, and like he's murdered a bunch of people in the story, and like we can't find him because we found the gun, but he must have had gloves on, so we can't find fingerprints.
That is a gag well they go back to numerous times. The unintended consequences of helping people in small ways.
It's so great,
and it's really funny. They also Steve Buscemi really plays up the like incompetence of God. He is a Donald Trump God.
Yeah.
He is like he's so obsessed with himself. In I think episode 3, he's just trying to get like a hot pocket out of the microwave, and he's trying to get his assistant to teach him how to make a hot pocket. And it's like he can't do that on his own. He is the ultimate like failing executive. And watching that, he decides like that he wants a new prophet, and it's treated like him dating again. And he basically becomes obsessed with a modern day guy played by Tim Meadows to perfection.
Nice.
So like every episode is sort of its own like standalone episode of like, oh well, what wacky hijinks has God up to this week? While the overarching plot is, are they going to get these people together in time to save the world? It's a goofy premise. I'm glad it's a limited series. I can't imagine more than one season of this. But 4 episodes in, I'm kind of digging it.
Yeah, it's got this good, optimistic, playful vibe, despite it trying to be like everything's bleak in heaven.
It's the most optimistic nihilism I've ever seen.
Yeah, it in a way is kind of like Office Space, where it puts a rosy comedic tint on the mundaneness of how things might actually operate up in heaven.
Yeah,
kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just impressed because it seems like TBS seems to have a couple of shows that they're doing all right with some of these.
Are they?
I liked Search Party a lot. I still maintain that was a pretty fun one for me.
I think Samantha Bee is one of the best of those late night shows.
I actually really like Samantha Bee, although I have fallen off of it, in part because of TBS and their weird interface.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to stay on those TBS shows because you always got to log. And I don't have a password anymore.
Right. You know what is super frustrating is I went to watch this, and I got the option of like, do you want to watch an ad that is interactive for 30 seconds or the other ad? I wasn't really paying attention.
Yep.
I clicked the other one instead of the interactive. And instead of this 30-second thing, it was like, here's 5 minutes of commercials. I was like, I've never seen 5 minutes on a digital interface. 5 minutes of ads? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, it's a mess.
I was so mad.
Yeah.
They don't want us to watch.
It did feel like I was in hell.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to I'm Sorry, this true TV show that is being redistributed by Netflix, so easier way for a lot of people to catch this. And go ahead and summarize the premise here.
This is a female-fronted Curb Your Enthusiasm. Right?
Perfect. Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
that's what it is. It's Andrea Savage.
Is it improvised?
I think it might be. I'm not 100% sure, but I bet it is. There's definitely a vibe to it. I think there may be a little more tightly written on some of it, but I'm sure that some of those sequences are improvised. Andrea Savage plays a married woman she's got a daughter, and her husband's played by Tom Everett Scott. And she is.
I thought that was Hugh Dancy. They look exactly the same, apparently.
She is a comedy writer, and she writes for sort of body material, but she's also she's a mom, and she deals with the daughter, and a lot of it's basically about her and her husband and the kid and her parents. Her parents are divorced. Her dad is now in a new open relationship, which she minds for a lot of comedy.
Oh man, they go far.
And
with
her
that.
dad is played by Martin Mull. And then who's her mom? I can't remember the actress who played her mom. I've seen her in a bunch of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I loved this entire cast. I loved all the
Oh my
relationships.
gosh! Yeah,
and-
all of the Veep crossover cast members.
Oh yeah.
No, this thing is fantastic, and I was immediately drawn to it because this is my relationship with my wife, except I am the Savage's character, and she's Tom Everett Scott's character. And it's so funny because we watch this and we're like, oh my God, that is our chemistry. Because she does everything in her power to make him uncomfortable, and
Yes.
their game is him just trying to keep a straight face as much as he can.
Yeah.
My favorite one of these is her daughter comes in one day and is like, "Hey mom, can you write this real quick? Write it like this," and it's like, "Dear so and so from Santa," and she's trying to find out if her mom is Santa.
Right.
And she writes it all down, and the daughter's like, "Oh, it must not be you." And as she's walking away, Andrea Savage is flipping her off and under her breath going, "Fuck you, I am Santa, motherfucker." Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, this comedy is in fact, with later seasons of Curb, I would say this is definitely picking up the baton and running with it more than that is.
Oh yeah. I mean, it does the same kind of thing that Larry David is obsessed with. Little, what's polite and the things you do in the name of politeness. The interactions that she has with the kindergarten parents, especially later on when she's like, "How am I the most edgy one?" She's like, they're making all these jokes, and then she suddenly says something that is too edgy and shuts them all down.
Yeah.
And I love all of that. Her daughter, the second episode's called "Racist Daughter."
Holy shit.
When her daughter decides to basically do blackface.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's the climax, but every little seed in this episode just builds and builds and builds. And the part where her daughter is like, "No, I like this color skin." And
Yes.
she's poking at her skin. And it's what do you say if somebody says that to you?
Also, I want to point out that her friend who gets divorced, who's only she's 3 or 4 episodes,
From Fargo.
is Allison Tolman from Fargo, and she's amazing here. I love her.
Yeah. Did you get to the episode
Say
with
this every time you see Allison
She is
Tolman.
amazing, and I love her.
She's really good in this.
She's really good in this.
Did you get to the cooking class episode?
I've seen, I think, all of it. Yes.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
my God, the cooking class where she's taking out her divorce issues on the other people. Yeah, it's great.
That was I'm gonna fuck your husband. That was so good.
I think the heart of this is really the relationship between Andrea Savage and Tom Everett Scott. Their banter back and forth, you can tell they love each other. You can tell that they're like this together forever, and yet they so love giving each other shit.
You know what I noticed in the second season? A little bit in the first season, but it seemed like almost every episode in the second season has got a scene of them getting ready for bed.
Yeah.
Every night. And it's I could just watch the two of them laying in bed, cracking jokes at each other.
Yeah.
This is I want to be in bed with these two. I mean, I want to watch these two. And
Yeah, the relationship between them is great. The relationship she has with her mom, where her mom also, she's an older lady, but she also, you can tell where chip off the old block. Her mom will play back at her, and I love that. And that's really fun. And her dad is this weirdly sincere, late in life, discovering his weirdo side, and her mockery of that, and his ability to just kind of brush it aside. He's like, He's like, I don't care. My daughter makes fun of me. He's like, I'm in an open relationship. I've got my sex wall. I'm good.
Can I get some nude photos of you, honey? All right, that's fine.
Martin Mull has always been great, and he's fantastic here playing an older, like a granddad figure. I love this entire cast.
Yeah, no. You know what I remember him from whenever I see him?
What's that?
I always think of him. He was the DJ in Jingle All the Way. I don't know if you remember the scene where they storm the radio station. They think they're going to get a Turbo Man doll, and the DJ, he's like, "Oh no, I have a gift certificate." And they're like, "What?"
I remember him from Clue.
Oh yeah,
Clue and Roseanne. And Sabrina the Teenage Witch, right?
Oh, and by the way, there's a Terriers tie-in.
what?
Yeah. So episode 8, Butt Bumpers.
Oh yeah.
They have a couple's friendship with this couple played by a real life couple from the Maggie from Terriers, whose name Jamie Denbo, and her real life husband who has 3 names, and I've completely blanked on it, and Les has interviewed him. He's the dad on
Speechless.
Speechless.
Oh, yeah.
John David Bowie, right? Yeah.
Or something close to that.
The two of them, I've got those 3 names. They might not be in the right order, but they're definitely, he might be David Bowie John. I don't know. At any rate, the two of them are a real life couple, and I love that they had that same chemistry. Like I totally bought them as a couple, of course. And they get into the weirdness of like when you're newly couples friends, and what happens when like the wife and the husband from the couples like wind up alone in this awkward situation where it feels like we're not friendly enough to be alone yet. Like we should couple on couple. I liked that quite a bit. I thought that was
and now
really
we're
funny.
going to touch asses.
Now we're going to touch butts because the daughters want us to.
Butts, yeah.
This show is so funny, and my buddy Nick Budd had teased about making a $20 Not Nick donation to our Patreon fund. Because he so desperately wanted us to watch this. So I'm glad he put me onto it. This is like one of my favorite shows now.
No lie, I like this show so much. I spent $20 on the season 2 iTunes pass.
Oh, nice.
Because we got into a season 1, like ripper and had to keep going.
Hey, so you can watch season 2 over and over again now that you don't have a network login.
Exactly. It does have good rewatchability too.
Yeah, it does.
Lots of little like micro jokes in there, and just keeps coming back.
Yeah, people should absolutely watch this. We slept on this show and we should not have.
Well, let's talk about the last show in our lineup, Pen 15, over on Hulu.
Wait a second. Give me that pen.
So,
all right, PEN.
Spell it out.
And you said 15. What? Wait a second. I don't think that's Pen 15 at all.
It's penis. Penis. So this is a comedy web television series created by Maya Erskine and Anna Kunkel. And you might recognize Maya Erskine from like Wet Hot American Summer, or she was in Man Seeking Women from the dude from
Simon Rich.
Yeah, Simon Rich. And this is a story of 2 7th grade girls that are best friends, entering into 7th grade and like just going through the terrible trials of 7th grade in the 90s. And they're both awkward and geeky, and they're played by 35-year-old women.
I mean, that's a very Wet Hot American Summer thing. They love to do that.
Right. And there's the juxtaposition of them being really old and all of the rest of the cast of kids playing their actual
But it's
age.
not an intentional juxtaposition. The intention is they're trying to blend in with this cast of all like age-appropriate characters. So it's all child actors.
Right.
And it really is like this stunt casting thing where they're trying to amp up the humor because they're the one delivering these nasty, dirty jokes, but then they're delivering them at the expense of actual child actors.
It's a little bit weird.
Yeah, that's kind of an
Uncomfortable.
understatement, yeah.
Well, we were talking off mic, and you were pointing out, like, in the first episode, there's this scene where they're talking about being, like, sexually attracted to these different hot boys in their 7th grade class. And it's them, like, going, oh, he's so hot and so dreamy. And then they'd have these, like, glamour, like, dreamboat shots of, like, them in slow motion, these young boys. And it just, like, it makes you uncomfortable.
A little bit, yeah.
Especially, after I just watched Leaving Neverland and that fucked up show.
Well, I was watching it with my wife, the part where they go, well, we have to get boyfriends together so we can get our first fingers in the same room.
Oh,
and she looked at me and she was like, no girl has ever said that to her friend before. Get first fingers together. What?
Yeah, and I get that they're trying to go for that similar Wet Hot American Summer vibe of the older people playing younger people and being filthy with it.
You know what this kind of... Sorry, I'm going to cut your point off.
Oh, well, I was just going to say that I get that they're trying to go for that, but at the same time, I think that they're playing their lines over the top in a way that doesn't mask how all the other kids are kind of interacting with them. Like all the kids when they're delivering their lines, it seems like genuine like good acting, and I'm in the scene with them. I believe that they're saying kind of silly kid things, but like it's earned with the kids.
Yeah.
But then like it's just these adult women going, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh geez, oh my god, like nonstop about everything. That seems like too much of a caricature.
Yeah, they actually joked about some of the girls who play like the bullies, the actual actors on set like being a little intimidated by them because they're just like, what is this? Like, why are you dressed like that? Like, have all these questions and stuff. But I was going to say, the show actually kind of makes me think of Derek with Ricky Gervais, where it's like him playing somebody with a mental disability, and then a lot of the actors on the show have mental disability, and a lot of the jokes are at the expense of people with mental disability. I'm probably not even saying like the appropriate word for that because it's one of these things where it's like the show is funny, but should I be laughing at these people like this situation?
Right. Yeah,
I feel like they did a similar thing here but just with kind of kids at that awkward puberty age.
It's kind of weird when us, the audience, are kind of the victim of the joke. Like they're making this, trying to make us, the audience, uncomfortable in a way, and it's weird to toggle back and forth. Like I want to be on board with you guys, I want to be in on the joke. I don't want to be in a way a butt of the joke that you're just trying to make me uncomfortable. So. And sometimes that's fine. Sometimes I'm good to watch awkward comedy, but this seems to be in the zeitgeist right now with this and Eighth Grade by that comedian
Bo Burnham
that just came out. These feel in a very similar vein. There was this moment in the first episode though where the lead girl, she ends up finding out why those guys, the boys, were hitting on her, and it's because she's the ugliest girl in school. Eugis is what the term they use, and she's been written up on the wall as the Eugis of the school. And how all of a sudden everything turned in that scene with the close-up shots of them just like emotionally distraught, but like trying to play it cool, and the back and forth between them and the girl, like letting them know, like all of that suddenly clicked so well for me.
Yeah,
and that felt like a genuine moment where I was suddenly on board with a lot of their story, and that led me to start watching a little bit of the second episode too. And I think that it moves a little bit away from its awkwardness, or at least I've bought into the conceit a little bit better by the second episode. So I think it improves dramatically.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I agree, and I don't think this is a bad show. But I do think when you do kind of this gimmick and you have the stunt casting like they do, it can't just be like an okay show. It's got to be better than good.
Right.
Because you got to give people a reason to watch something that makes them kind of uncomfortable to get the joke. But like that scene with the bathroom and it just kind of makes you think of like bullying in high school and junior high. And I think they really nailed the tone of that. But funny enough, I actually think that in order for this to work better for me, like I'd like to see it go kind of crazy. Like that show we watched on YouTube, Weird City.
Oh, yeah.
Like imagine that level of humor with this type of material.
You mean like going surreal?
Yeah, like going surreal with this idea where they're maybe even making in-jokes that these two girls look like adults. I don't know, because, they're definitely trying to play it sincere. And I think in order for their comedy to work, they can't go too sincere. But in order for their show to work, they have to have some sincerity. So it's like a double-edged sword.
It's funny, the list of people on the wall when she finds the Yuji's list in the bathroom. one of the girls listed on there, I believe, is the part of the prop department. And I went to design school with her here, so I was like, oh, I recognize that her name's put in there, snuck into a scene.
Cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So I think it's kind of interesting. I was starting to warm up a bit more to it, and I might go give it another shot.
Okay.
I think that's where I left off with that.
All right.
Yeah.
Break.
Break.
Listener question time. So if you guys go to facebook.com and like our page and then set your notifications on, Randy will put up a post on occasion asking you guys to ask us whatever you want TV related, and we'll try and tackle that here and now. First question comes to us from our buddy Alec Miracle. He says, dudes, the original 60s Star Trek is on Netflix. I did just see they put that up.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. I've seen Wrath of Khan and all of the rebooted trilogy. I don't consider myself a Trekkie. As someone who's seen a lot of shows and movies, do you think that it's worth my time to watch the original series?
Well, first of all, I would say he mentions Wrath of Khan. You haven't seen the best movie. You need to see Voyage Home, Star Trek 4.
Is that? Do you think that's better?
No, I'm just making fun of it.
The whales?
I
thought a lot of people liked the
I actually
whales.
really like that movie, but confession, I've been listening to the Star Trek Discovery Pod, and I was listening with the horror in Clyde's voice at the whales part of Star Trek Voyage Home, and it amused me to think of that as like really pitching that as a hardcore. But I actually do think 4 is really good, and I think 6, which is sort of the finale of the original series,
Is that the Undiscovered Country?
Yes.
Okay.
Also worth watching. But I've only ever seen a couple episodes of the original series, to be honest.
And I've seen none.
Of the original series?
Yeah.
No, I actually. So the thing is, this is perfect when you're in the mood for like old Twilight Zone or old Hitchcock or TOS. Like I find these episodes sometimes I put them on when I'm trying to fall asleep.
Yeah,
because like I'll kind of get into them, but then they move a lot slower than TV does now.
Yeah.
But I definitely find that first episode with Captain Pike kind of interesting. And when Pike came to Discovery, I went and rewatched that one, just out of morbid curiosity.
Yeah,
but. No, yeah. I think
it holds up, right? Like, I mean, I feel like if nothing else, what you want to do is find some of the spotlight episodes, like City on the Edge of Forever, the one that Harlan Ellison wrote and then disavowed because they changed it. The episode with the Telosians, the Cage and the Menagerie, the Pike one, like those are both worth watching.
Where's the one where Spock and Kirk fight?
Oh, man,
with the big blades?
That one. What's that one called? I forget what that was called.
It's called ba 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 ba.
The Mirror Universe episode.
Yeah.
There's definitely, I would say there's definitely some stuff that's worth watching in there. What I would do is do a quick Google, see if there's somebody who's made a list of like the 10 best TOS episodes, or go over to our buddies at Text Trek, who I'm sure have talked about like what episodes tie into Star Trek Discovery. And maybe like when you see Discovery, like, oh, what's that? You can go catch the TOS episode. I think it's worth watching, and I say that as someone who has never watched it. So.
If you want that notch in your geek cred, go ahead and watch it.
Yeah.
I have no interest.
Or put it on in the background at parties.
Yeah,
with closed captioning on.
That's actually perfect.
Yeah.
Throw a Star Trek
game
party.
night. Yeah,
everybody comes in different in Star Trek uniforms, and you drink Romulan ale, and you put Star Trek on the app. Yeah,
you put that on in the background of your party, and watch how soon that party is over. Where'd everyone go? All right, one last question. This comes to us from Dennis McElwain, who says, "Hey dudes, what shows do you consider perfect for the one season that they had?"
I have an answer.
Oh boy. I think Brain Dead was great in one season, and a second in Wall Street would have ruined it.
Brain Dead is on my wish list to watch. I know Amazon has all of it, and it was God, what's her name? She's done a three name actress. She was in Scott Pilgrim, and she was,
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking
Mary
about. Right?
Elizabeth Winstead.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Oh, the one where she's like in DC.
Yeah, and they're like brain eating zombies.
Oh, that first episode was really good.
I've heard that season is great. I never got around to watching it. I would like to. It's on my list. But that is one of those one season
You
shows.
can't say it.
I'm not going to say it. You all know I made a damn podcast about it. But I will say, about the same time, there was a show on FX called Lights Out that I think had a pretty good. Did you not think that helped? I really loved the first season of Lights Out.
I don't know. I think it was okay. I
thought that was a really good one season show.
I feel like when we were watching that, we were not liking other shows, and so we put a rosier tint on it. I don't necessarily think it was that great. And
that's interesting.
You think it was a fully encapsulated story that you never wanted more? Like you finished that and you're like, that was a great one season and done.
Yeah, I didn't need to see more. I didn't need to see more of like whether or not he had brain damage or anything like that. So I thought that was a good, solid one season show.
End of the fucking world over on Netflix.
They're gonna fuck that up.
It was great. It was a one season, and it doesn't need
They should not be doing
anymore.
a second season.
But apparently they're doing a second season, and you know what? I'll throw 13 Reasons Why also on that list. Because what a fantastic season that was. And then they're like, well, let's do another one. And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It turned out to be a bad idea.
Perfect seasons is a tough thing because like there are things like, for example, Rubicon. Rubicon's a really good one season, and then it's got that fucked up finale that ruins everything. And
They go, let's add like 5 cliffhangers and then not get renewed.
yeah, and that's a bummer because it wrecks the whole show in retrospect.
But that penultimate episode was fantastic.
it was
They should
really
have just
good.
ended right there. Don't
Yeah.
have that last episode.
Yeah, there are definitely shows like that where you just don't watch the last episode and everything's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm trying to think of other like one season shows. I mean, I'm sure that if Les were here, he would have an answer. He would have 100 answers.
Yeah, Happy Town, Middleman.
Here's a super random one. Did you guys ever watch this reality TV shows, these two Canadian guys? It was called Kenny versus Spenny.
I've heard of it.
And the idea was like two best friends and they have a competition every week. Well, anyways, these guys licensed the rights to their show out to these two British guys, Ed and Spencer. All right. And Ed and Spencer did one season of this show where it was just two British guys who every week they lived in an apartment together and they'd have a competition. And it was fucking awesome. And I think the Kenny versus Spenny, they made probably 100 episodes of that. I think probably 10 of them are really good. They're not all good, though. These people that they licensed the show out to, I think they did like a better job with like 8 or 10 episodes than these guys did with 100.
Such an angle.
And now it's impossible to find this show. Like, if anybody can find Ed versus Spencer, I mean, I would send you TV Dude stickers. Like, that's how serious I am about this.
You would have me send those.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, hey, folks, if you like this podcast and you want to help support us, please go to patreon.com/tvdudes. Make an per episode pledge. Give us $1. Give us $2 an episode if you really think we're worth it. And
Worth it.
Yeah, if you guys make a pledge and you want a sticker or two, you can also go ahead and say, I'm in it for the stickers. And go ahead and do that, and I'll mail you some stickers. You just got some of your address as well. Patreon.com/tvdudes. We're also proud members of the Electric Sweater Network.
Electric Sweater!
Sweater!
And it's a collection of podcasts that are TV-centric. FemTV is a podcast talking with women in the television industry. Pilot Watching, and this
Pilot
is
Watching
us.
is changing its name.
Oh yeah, it is changing its name. Do you
remember?
know it?
Nope. But
Then why did you bring it up?
They are refocusing to be not just pilots, but sort of like the shows that they're watching and enjoying. So
Great TV, good talk, or something. I want to say it's something like that. Yep. That's Key and Clyde, our buddies, and you can go to keyandclyde.com to go ahead and check that out. There's a Star Trek podcast. I don't remember what that one's called. Don't worry about it. I'm on it. But big whoop. Yeah, there's a bunch of great podcasts over there, and we encourage you guys to go check that out. We want to thank you guys for tuning into this show, and we will be back next week talking about magic.
magic.
It's a kind of magic.
Do you believe in Oh, wait, no, I guess we can't sing that song anymore.
No, I think you're thinking of that song "Mind Is Magic" by Michael Jackson. Not "Do You Believe in Magic."
Oh yeah, that.
Either way,
track.
This is not a good way to bookend our comedy
It's
episode.
a bookend. We start out talking about horror, the horrors of Michael Jackson. We end talking about one of his lesser-known songs.
All right, TV Dudes out. The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Electric Sweater Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/tvdudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter @TV Dudes. All the music for our show is by our friend and original TV dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and electricsweater.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.